Hi everyone, welcome to Amazing You. My name is Dr. Rani Thanakodi. I am a certified hypnotherapist, life and relationship coach, breathwork coach, astrologer, and life force compassion practitioner. And today I have the immense pleasure to introduce you to the beautiful, to the amazing Valda Ford from the United States. Valda is a speaker, registered nurse, and a public health expert. Welcome, Valda, to Amazing You.
Thank you, Dr. Ronnie. Such a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you for taking your time to speak to the audience today, and I am sure they will feel very inspired after listening to you today. So, Valda, would you tell us briefly about your story?
All right. Well, I grew up in a long time ago, let's
Right,
say, in the South part of the United States. And I was always told what I could not do.
right,
As a girl, I was told girls don't do this. My
yes,
family was set up so girls work, boys work. Girls were expected to mainly be a support to whatever man was taking care of them.
mm,
So it didn't matter what your brain was telling you. And I remember when I grew up, people would say, men don't make passes at girls who wear glasses. And that just meant girls who wore glasses were perceived to be smart.
okay,
And so then if you're too smart, perhaps you will intimidate the man and then he won't want you. Well,
right,
fortunately, the women in my family were a little bit more savvy than that. And they pretty much said, it doesn't matter what the people in the community are telling you, you can and cannot do. It doesn't matter that we're poor and we cannot afford to pay for your education, because as compared to the UK, we have
yes,
to come out of pocket for very much so for our education. Originally I did believe them. I paid attention. I got married at the ridiculous age of 17,
wow, that's very young, yes, yeah.
very young, but I thought I had no options. And I
Mm,
married a Marine because he could
okay,
take me away.
right.
And that didn't go very well. I was too young to be married. He was a lot older than I was, and he really didn't want the responsibility of a wife.
Mm,
But in time, I became a single parent. And then I had the responsibility of raising two boys
okay.
without an education. So I went to school. I got 4 degrees past my original diploma, and I became a registered nurse. And that allowed me to have the world opened up to me. And
Yes,
I have had the opportunity to travel to 6 continents and 57 countries.
right. So what are the degrees that you've got? What areas are they?
The first one
Are they?
is in nursing. It's an associate degree, a 2-year degree, then a bachelor's in nursing,
Okay.
followed by a master of public health.
Wow.
And that was in health policy analysis, because I was looking at people, looking at patients who might not
Yes.
have had a lot. In the United States, our systems are not that great for, if you don't have money, you can get caught up in not getting the things that you need. And there were people who would determine that, say, an elderly woman might need intravenous therapy, need an IV, need fluids to drip into their body. And maybe the doctor also declared that she needed multivitamins in that IV. But the
Right.
people who were making the rules might say, you can have the IV, but you can't have the multivitamins. Or you can have the IV, but we're not going to pay for the device to put it in. It was all pretty ridiculous.
Mm,
So I went to school to see who's making these policies and what can I do to change them.
right. And along the way, along that journey of you taking different degree courses, what has been the greatest challenge that you face along the way as a single parent studying? What was the greatest challenge? And how did you overcome that?
The greatest challenge was really financial to start with. Just,
Right.
I imagine I paid for all of my education. So I would say I have paid out the equivalent US of maybe $80,000 or $90,000 for my education.
Mm,
And to do that while a single parent, and to go to school, to be a parent, and to be working full time, sometimes working 2 or 3 jobs.
yeah.
One of the challenges was, of course, having good people to take care of my children. And fortunately, I had great family support. So people stepped up to
Okay.
say, look, you're working the weekend. I would work the weekend shifts as a nurse in the burn unit. I would work the high intensity
Okay.
agencies because they would pay more.
Okay. Right.
And so my family stepped up to help me do those things.
Mm, wow, that's amazing. And who has been the most influential person in your life, Valda, and why?
Probably the most influential person was my great grandmother.
Okay, so tell us more about what was so great with your grandmother.
Mm-hmm. She was a woman who was born to parents who had been slaves.
Okay.
Her experience was pretty rough,
Yeah.
but she was always one who, even though she did not have the opportunity to go to school past 3 years of education, because she had to take care of her sister who had epilepsy. So she had seizures all the time.
Mhm.
So she had to come out of school to take care of her sister. But she always said to me, read, 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 learn things, be very good with your speech, learn a new set of words for your vocabulary, because that will lift you up. So she opened my mind by putting books in my hands, and we couldn't afford to buy books. And of course, we didn't have the internet a million years ago.
Yes,
But she would always find books, borrow books, make sure I had the time to read books. And that opened my mind and showed me that there were other things in the world other than that little block where people wanted us to stay.
that's wonderful. Thank you. And today you wanted to talk to us about that topic called Do It Anyway. So tell us more about that, Valda.
Well, being a person who was always told, one, don't act like you're smart, it might turn a man off. Number two, you can't be athletic because that will mean that you're too much like a man. You can't work because that will suggest that there's something wrong with you and some man should have been taking care of you. So all of those things.
Mhm.
In the beginning, I did listen. And as I said, I got married, I went away, that didn't work out. And so to do it anyway just
Yes.
means it doesn't matter where you start.
Okay.
You limit yourself with your own mind, right? And if I had always just accepted what people said, I would still be living in the same house in the same neighborhood. I would not have been able to support myself in such a way that I could lift my entire family up and pass that along to all of the young people in my family and other people that I meet. So I've had the opportunity to go all sorts of places where women couldn't do very well, but because
Mm.
maybe I could bring in some micro loans, and just $50 in certain countries will take a woman so very far. Perhaps she can buy a sewing machine or the materials to make things for someone else. So do it anyway means don't let your light be pressed down and put under a basket deep in the ground, because there are people who will happily have you be dull and dark, but
Yes.
there's a light in all of us. And if we decide to do it anyway, regardless of what people tell us, we will find within ourselves the strength and the ability to lift ourselves up and to lift up those we love.
Yes. That's so true. Because at the end of the day, it's nobody else's journey. It's our journey. It's
Mhm.
our own journey. So we are the one who knows ourselves the best. Nobody knows us, even our parents. They don't know us as we know ourselves, as we know what is in our heart, what are the desires of our heart. Nobody would know that, God and us.
Mhm.
So that's why I think uh, it's a great point that you made to do it anyway, because we matter, we are important, our journey is important to us. Yes, yeah,
Exactly.
that's
And even if you have something to hold you down or knock you
yes,
down, it's the ability to determine that you will get back up.
yeah.
Say for me, getting married at 17, being a mother by the time I was 19,
Mm,
there are many, many times, even when I was going to school, they would say, well, how can you go to school and take care of a child? I mean, it's a different world now. But then they were like, well, you shouldn't be going to school. You should be a parent. You should be sitting at home. But I didn't listen to them. So I had to find a way. It was tough. But I have been in so many places in the world where certain groups of people have been told what they're not. And if you buy into it, then that's where you'll stay.
yes, because
Yeah.
people will always have an opinion about you, you know?
Mhm.
They will always say something, whether you do good or bad, they will always have an opinion. But the most
Exactly.
important opinion is your opinion, is our opinion. What we
Yeah.
believe about ourselves. Yeah,
And to do it anyway, sometimes you have to find a group of people who help you. And
absolutely.
don't be afraid to ask for help. There may
Mm,
be a group at your community exercise facility, at your church or synagogue, or wherever your faith tradition takes you, people in your neighborhood, people who are in the park taking care of their kids. If you
yes,
just start to talk about them and develop relationships and recognize that you have things to bring to the conversation, that no matter who you are, if you're not educated, if you don't have money, you can be a friend to someone who in
mm,
turn may bring something back to you to help you get those things that you need to do. So, but you have to decide you're going to do it anyway. And I remember when I was in nursing school,
yes.
I had an instructor who was just horrible.
Right.
And to me, she always was trying to find a way to trip people up instead of
Mm,
lift them up.
okay.
Fortunately for me, she was the impetus. She was the fire in my belly because
Right.
I knew I was going to do it in spite of her rather than it should have been because of her. I did it in spite of her. So I did it anyway. And I got my 2-year degree. And then I went back to get a 4-year degree and then 2 master's degrees. And I've done some postgraduate work as well. But all along the way, people were telling me what was not enough,
Mm.
why I couldn't do things, but I ignored them.
And lucky for you that you ignored them.
I mean, I didn't ignore them all the time. Sometimes I was sitting in the corner crying, but I
Yes.
give myself 5 minutes or one day to just let it all come out. And then I
Yes.
think, who are they to tell me?
Absolutely. You are very smart to be able to process this information and then decide what is best for you, Valda.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And
Yeah, it's
yes,
pretty
go.
it's
Yes,
pretty
go
tough
on.
if I remember I
Hmm.
mean I had a really terrible thing that happened and my youngest son died. And I just was absolutely crushed. I was
Yeah.
at the verge of suicide because I felt that surely I could have done something else. Maybe if I wasn't trying to work and go to school and do all these things, maybe I would have seen something sooner. And ultimately, it was just about some negligence that happened in the hospital.
Mm.
But I didn't forgive myself for years.
Right.
And this is what we have to do for each other. We
Yes.
have to lift each other up. If you see someone suffering, you may not be able to help them that day, but if you let them know I'm here for you when you need it. And I had one neighbor who did that for me because I was not where my family was at that point in time. But she just said, look, if you need me to babysit for a minute with my other son, if you need me to run to get groceries for you, she would just give me a respite, just a short time to catch myself. And I learned over time that if you have the strength to do it anyway, you have to look at what does this thing do to you for this 5 minutes? What does it do to you for 5 days? And what will it do, or how will it affect you 5 months from now?
Yeah.
And when you do that, you see that something in the moment is just so horrible, and you think, oh, I can't live through this. I can't survive this. I can't come back from it. But 5 days later, if you look at it, you say, that was bad, but maybe it wasn't quite as bad. And maybe 5 months later, you're thinking, why was I all stressed out about that? You
Yes.
do it anyway.
Yes. That's so true because when we look at things, when we look back at things, we realize that they were so simple, so like really small, and we made a big deal out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's so true.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when I used to teach, and the students, these were nursing students,
Okay.
and they would be so upset when they didn't get the top grade, and some of them would want to drop out of school, or worse. I was like, no one is going to care that you missed getting the top score on the exam. They just
Yes.
want to know, are you a good nurse? Are you compassionate? Are you paying attention? Are you an advocate for them? And they're not even going to look at your scores. They're going to see, did you graduate? Did you pass the board? Are you licensed? And they helped me to see that in the moment, things can crush you. But
Yeah,
if you just take a step back and think it through, you can do it anyway.
that's that's amazing. Thank you. And what would you say, Valda, today to encourage anybody who is listening and watching and who is facing some really tough times? What would you like to tell them today?
I would say to them that if they don't have a support system, to get one,
Okay.
regardless of what you're doing, whether you're going to school or starting a business or being a brand new parent. It's always good to have someone who can have your back. But in the meantime, just try to find out the thing that you need to move forward. So many times we'll jump out and start things, and we'll be overwhelmed because we didn't know enough, and failure seems to be imminent. But just consider that the failure today was just an experiment, that when you look back on it tomorrow, and you will do it. Just don't give up, but reach out for support, because we all need someone in our corner.
That's true. Yes. Thank you.
Mhm.
So, would you tell us, Valda, what book has impacted you the most and why?
Well, that's an interesting question. There's a book that I love that
Yes.
will seem odd. It's called Why Giraffes, or is it Zebras? It's so funny.
Okay.
I think it's Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers.
Okay. Yes, I've heard of this book. Yes.
Yes. And the thing about it is, it really just addresses the fact that zebras don't walk around in a state of anxiety all the time.
True.
They understand that there may be some threats, but because they are pack animals, they're herd animals,
Yeah.
there's usually somebody kind of keeping a lookout. But they're not like us. Like, if I'm afraid of heights, I will have all of the juices in my stomach churning and a headache before I even get there. Zebras don't do that. So they don't have all these stomach problems and ulcers and heart problems and high blood pressure, because they know how to deal with the danger when it's there,
Mm,
but let it go
yeah,
and not anticipate all the negative things. And that really centered me to know, okay, it's bad, but it's bad right now. It won't be bad when I walk out of the door.
right.
I love that book.
Oh, it's a very, I think this kind of book will help a lot of people nowadays because people are so stressed out and they are in that stress mode all the time. It is, I've seen that among students, adults, anybody, children, always in that fight and flight response. Yeah, yeah. I think it's a great book. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
And can you tell us what you do? Can you tell us more about what you do? And how can people reach out to you, Valda?
Okay. Right now, I'm really concentrating on helping develop systems and policies that help decrease the number of babies who die before their first year and decrease the number of women who die before their babies would make it to the first year. Unfortunately, for especially in the US, as an industrialized nation, we have some of the worst numbers in the world.
Right.
And I talk to organizations to help them really get to empowering women. But
Yeah.
in general, what I do is I work with women to improve their health, whether it is psychological, financial, or physical. And people can reach me at Valda at valdaford.com or through my website, valdaford.com.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing your website and sharing your story. It's been a very inspiring story, inspiring journey.
Yes.
And I would say thank you so much, Valda, for sharing all of this today to the audience. And I wish you a lot of success moving ahead and that you do many, many great things to help the community. Thank you,
Thank,
Valda.
thank you. It has been my true pleasure to be here today.
And I would like to say thank you to the audience for subscribing, for sharing, for liking, and for watching and listening. And I will see all of you very soon. Bye, everyone.